As I stepped into the quiet of my home, the familiar buzz of my phone pulled me out of my thoughts. After a long week abroad for business, I was jet-lagged but glad to be back. Seeing my mother-in-law Julie's name flash on the screen, I hesitated. Her calls were unpredictable, swinging between idle chatter and sudden pleas for money. But something about this one felt different. There was a strange urgency in the way she answered. "Olivia, you won't believe this," she practically shouted, her voice vibrating with excitement. "You've just saved $100, 000. I frowned. See, her words hanging in the air like a heavy mist. What was she talking about? $100, 000. My mind raced. As a freelance jewelry designer, I was careful with money, always mindful of our savings, but I had never accumulated anything near that figure, nor would I ever stash such a sum in an easily accessible place. My bank cards had been with me the entire trip." Julie carried on as if it were no big deal. "You left it in the sideboard drawer. I figured, since you're doing so well, it wouldn't hurt for me to use it." A knot tightened in my stomach. "What are you talking about?" I asked, doing my best to keep my voice calm. "I didn't leave any money in the drawer." But before I could get more out of her, she hurriedly thanked me, casually hinting that she might need more financial help soon. Then, just like that, she hung up, leaving me standing in the middle of my living room, stunned. I stared at my phone, trying to make sense of what she had said. $100, 000 in the sideboard. My hands trembled as I walked over to the drawer. I opened it slowly, already knowing what I'd find. Nothing. Of course, it was empty. But what was Julie thinking? Was this some bizarre misunderstanding, or had something far more troubling just occurred? Larry, my husband, would be home soon, and I was determined to get answers. The longer I waited, the more anxious I became. Could Larry have left that money there? But why? We've always been responsible, especially since we started the jewelry business together. Larry had even quit his corporate job recently to help manage the brand, and we'd been working hard to maintain our finances carefully. When Larry finally walked through the door, I didn't waste any time. "Julie called," I said, unable to hide the tension in my voice. "She said she took $100, 000 from the sideboard. Do you know anything about that?" Larry's face went pale, and my heart sank. He rubbed the back of his neck, his eyes avoiding mine. "He didn't think she'd actually take it," he mumbled, his voice barely audible. "What are you talking about?" I demanded, my pulse quickening. He let out a long sigh, finally meeting my gaze. "A few weeks ago, Julie asked for more money. You know how she isolates, assuming we're flush with cash because of the business. She doesn't realize that most of it goes toward expenses, not luxuries. Anyway, she racked up more debt, credit cards, loans. It spiraled out of control." A chill ran down my spine. "And what does that have to do with $100, 000? I was trying to help her get out of the mess," Larry admitted, guilt weighing down his words. "I withdrew the money to pay off some of her debts, but I hadn't told you yet. I thought I had time to deal with it before you got back. I didn't think she'd just take it from the house." I could barely process what I was hearing. Julie had always been reckless with money, but this, taking such a huge amount without permission, and worse, Larry, my husband, who I trusted completely, had hidden this from me. He had stashed a significant amount of money in our home, and his own mother had taken it. "Larry," I said, my voice shaking, "do you even realize what you've done? This isn't just about the money, it's about trust. How could you keep this from me?" He sank into a chair, his shoulders slumped in defeat. "I know," he whispered. "I was just trying to protect you from the stress. We've been doing so well, and I didn't want Julie's problems to pull us down." But it was too late for that. Julie's reckless actions and Larry's secrecy had already cast a shadow over everything, and now the weight of it all was dragging us under. This wasn't the first time Julie had stirred up trouble. Over the years, she had developed a habit of asking for money under the pretense of needing help, though more often than not, it was for frivolous things: parties, new clothes, even vacations. Larry, in an effort to keep the peace, would always give in, thinking that a little financial support would smooth things over. But every time he caved, it only seemed to fuel her sense of entitlement. Julie had never grasped the reality of our situation. From the outside, she saw our growing business, the glamorous events we attended, the polished image we projected. What she didn't see were the long hours, the constant financial balancing act, the weight of the responsibility we carried. Every dollar we spent was meticulously planned to ensure our brand's survival. We weren't living in luxury, we're living in survival mode. Yet despite all this, Larry remained soft when it came to his mother. He hated confrontation, and avoiding conflict with Julie had always been his default. He'd rather give her what she wanted than face one of her tantrums. But now, the stakes were higher than ever. This wasn't a situation that could be solved with a handout or a quiet apology. Julie had crossed a line, and this time, we couldn't afford to let it slide. I looked at Larry, my frustration bubbling over. We can't keep doing this. Julie's out of control. You have to stop giving in to her demands. Larry nodded, regret etched into his face. I know, this has gone too far. In the days that followed, Julie's calls became more frequent, her requests growing in size. At first, it was small favors, but soon it escalated: money for a new dress, a designer handbag, and even a lavish party she was planning. Every time, Larry would try to explain that we couldn't afford to keep giving her money, but she refused to listen. In her mind, we had more than enough, and she was entitled to enjoy it too. Then, one day, everything took an unexpected turn. Julie showed up at our front door, her face flushed with anger. Why didn't you tell me the money had strings attached? She snapped the moment she stepped inside. Larry and I exchanged confused looks. What are you talking about? I asked, trying to stay calm, though I felt anything but. The $100, 000, she shot back. I tried to buy something, and my card was declined. Why did you put limits on my spending? Larry's eyes widened in shock. You maxed out the card already. Julie folded her arms defiantly. It's not fair. You two are always going to fancy places, buying expensive things. Why shouldn't I get to enjoy myself too? I could hardly believe what I was hearing. Julie, we're not spending money for photos or business expenses. It's not the same thing. But it's all money, she argued, clearly not understanding the difference. You just don't want me to have any fun. Something inside me snapped. This isn't about fun, Julie. You took money that wasn't yours and spent it without asking. That's theft, plain and simple. Julie looked stunned, as if she hadn't even considered that. But I'm family, she protested, as if that excused her actions. Family or not, it was wrong, I said firmly. You've put us in a difficult position. Larry, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. Julie, we've tried to help you, but this has gone too far. We can't keep funding your lifestyle. You need to take responsibility. Julie didn't take the news well. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. For a while, we didn't hear from her. I thought maybe she had finally realized the seriousness of her actions, but I was wrong. The calls resumed, but this time, they were filled with desperation. Olivia, please, I need your help, Julie begged during one call. The creditors are after me. They're threatening to take everything. I could hear the fear in her voice, but I also knew we couldn't bail her out again. We'd already sacrificed so much, and now our own future was on the line. One evening, after another exhausting day, Larry's phone buzzed again with a call from Julie. He stared at the screen for a moment before silencing it and setting the phone down with a heavy sigh. We can't keep doing this, he said quietly, echoing the words I'd spoken weeks ago. I've been enabling her for too long. and now she's in a mess I can't fix." I nodded, feeling the weight of his words. Julie had always relied on Larry to save her, but this time was different. The consequences were too great, and we couldn't afford to get dragged down with her. After much discussion, Larry made the difficult decision to cut ties with Julie financially. It wasn't easy, and there were moments when he doubted whether it was the right thing to do, but deep down, we both knew it was the only way forward. Julie needed to face the reality of her actions, and we needed to protect ourselves from the fallout of her reckless behavior. As we prepared for our move abroad to pursue a new business opportunity, we tried to put the ordeal with Julie behind us, but it wasn't easy. The calls continued, Julie pleading for help, but we had made our decision. We had drawn a line, one we could no longer afford to cross. The move overseas brought its own set of challenges, but it also opened doors we hadn't anticipated. Our business flourished in the international market, and soon offers were pouring in from around the world. It was an exhilarating time, yet bittersweet. As we settled into our new life, the thought of what we'd left behind lingered, especially Julie's situation. Julie had sold her house to cover her debts, but it wasn't enough. She moved into a small apartment, working part-time just to get by. It was a far cry from the life she'd once enjoyed, and while I felt sympathy for her, I also understood that her circumstances were the result of her own choices. The hard truth was that she'd been given chances plenty of them, and each time, she had chosen the wrong path. As the months passed, Larry and I often reflected on everything that had unfolded. The experience with Julie had taught us some hard, but valuable, lessons about boundaries, financial responsibility, and the need to protect what we had worked so hard to build. Our business and our life together were products of years of dedication, and we weren't going to let anyone, not even family, jeopardize that. Julie's story became a cautionary tale for us, a reminder of the importance of managing our resources wisely and staying true to our values. It hadn't been an easy journey, but we had come out stronger on the other side, more united than ever before. As I stood by the window of our new home, gazing out at the bustling cityscape, I thought about how far we'd come. The challenges with Julie had tested our relationship, but they had also strengthened it. Larry and I had learned to rely on each other, to communicate openly, and to set boundaries when needed. Our business was thriving, and though the future was still uncertain, we felt more prepared than ever to face it. The road ahead was full of possibilities, and whatever came our way, we knew we'd face it together, stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever the future had in store.